Detroit, 1982. The air is thick with rage and the smell of rust. A crowd of auto workers, their jobs vanishing, surrounds a brand new Toyota. They're not just protesting, they're destroying it with sledgehammers. This wasn't just a car, it was a symbol of America's industrial decline and of Japan's seemingly unstoppable ascent. Half a world away in Tokyo, the mood was triumphant. Japanese companies weren't just competing, they were dominating. They were buying up iconic American assets like the Rockefeller Center. The prevailing fear in Washington was that the United States was on track to become a mere resource colony for a technologically superior Japanese empire. But in the quiet, wood-paneled rooms of power, a radical plan was being hatched. A plan not to win through industrial might, but to change the very rules of the global economic game. It was a financial maneuver so audacious, it would use America's greatest weakness, its towering deficits, as its ultimate weapon. The question was, could you save an economy not by building better products, but by rewriting the value of its currency? Welcome to the Gold Line. Today we're dissecting one of the most pivotal yet underappreciated turning points in modern economic history, the Plaza Accords of 1985. This is the story of how the Reagan administration, in a secret meeting at New York's Plaza Hotel, orchestrated a coordinated devaluation of the US dollar. It was a strategic retreat that masked a deeper, more aggressive offensive. We'll explore how this single agreement fundamentally altered America's economic strategy, allowing it to reassert global dominance over its chief economic rivals in the Western world of the time, Germany and Japan. To understand the Plaza Accords, we need to understand the world they were designed to fix. After World War II, the US deliberately rebuilt the economies of West Germany and Japan. They were to be productive, export-oriented engines within a US-led capitalist system, a storefront for the Soviets to envy. And it worked spectacularly well. By the early 1980s, they were manufacturing powerhouses, while America was struggling with stagflation. Then came Reagan. His solution was massive tax cuts and a military buildup. This sent the US budget deficit soaring. To finance it, America had to offer high interest rates, which acted as a magnet for global capital. This massive inflow of foreign money drove the value of the US dollar through the roof. This is a critical economic concept: currency appreciation. A strong dollar sounds good, right? It means your money buys more abroad, but for a nation's industrial base, it's a disaster. Imagine you're Caterpillar trying to sell a bulldozer. A German or Japanese company can sell the same machine for 30% less, not because it's better, but because their currency is weaker. American factories became uncompetitive overnight. The very industries that had built the American middle class were being hollowed out. This is where the genius and the ruthlessness of the American strategy emerges. As historian Giovanni Arrighi argues in works like Adam Smith in Beijing, the US began to leverage its unique position. It was no longer just a producer, it was the world's consumer and its banker. The US ran massive trade deficits, soaking up the exports of Germany and Japan. In return, it paid them with US Treasury bonds, pieces of the American national debt. They were accumulating paper. America was still consuming their goods, but this couldn't last forever. The political pressure was too great. So, on September 22, 1985, the finance ministers of the US, Japan, West Germany, France, and the UK gathered at the Plaza Hotel. In secret, they agreed to a coordinated intervention. They would all sell dollars and buy other currencies, deliberately driving the dollar's value down. This was the Plaza Accord. On the surface, it was a concession, a move to help American manufacturers by making their goods cheaper abroad. But it was something far more profound. It was the moment the US weaponized the global financial system it had created. It forced its rivals to revalue their currencies, knowing it would cripple their export engines. The consequences were seismic, especially for Japan. The soaring yen made Japanese exports more expensive, hurting their manufacturers. To counteract this, the Bank of Japan slashed interest rates, flooding the economy with cheap credit. This money had to go somewhere. It didn't go into productive investment. It went into a massive, epic bubble in stocks and real estate. The value of the Imperial Palace in Tokyo was said to be worth more than all the real estate in California. It was a fantasy, and when it popped, it consigned Japan to decades of economic stagnation from which it has never fully recovered. Germany, with a more robust industrial base and the discipline of the soon-to-come euro, fared better, but its growth was also permanently tempered. The Plaza Accords didn't just lower the dollar, it managed the decline of America's competitors. The world engineered by the Plaza Accords is the world we lived in until very recently. For decades, the US embraced a strong dollar policy and rhetoric, but often benefited from a currency that was, in reality, managed to be competitive. The US became the consumer of last resort, running perpetual trade deficits, while its financial sector grew to dominate the global economy. The industrial might of the 20th century was swapped for financial hegemony in the 21st. But this model, too, created its own contradictions. The very offshoring of manufacturing that the strong dollar had encouraged left deep scars in the American heartland. The benefits of financialization were concentrated in coastal cities, fueling inequality and political resentment. This brings us to the fundamental policy shift of the Trump administration. Donald Trump's economic nationalism represented a radical break from the post-Plaza consensus. He didn't see trade deficits as a sign of American strength and global liquidity. He saw them as a sign of American short-sightedness and loss of competitiveness in the global theater. Where the architects of the Plaza Accords used quiet, multilateral diplomacy, the Trump administration wielded tariffs and public threats. It explicitly accused countries, especially China, of currency manipulation, a mirror image of what the US had done at the Plaza. It wasn't seeking a managed, cooperative devaluation. It was demanding unilateral concessions, threatening to blow up the entire system if it didn't get them. The focus shifted from maintaining financial hegemony through the dollar to a direct confrontational approach to trade. The goal was to force a rebalancing through tariffs and bilateral deals, explicitly aiming to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. This was a rejection of the core premise of the post-Plaza era, that America could thrive as a financial and consumer economy while letting others handle production. The Plaza Accords teach us that economic supremacy is not just about who makes the best products. It's about who writes the rules of the system and who has the power to change them when it's convenient. The US in 1985 demonstrated that even in relative decline, it held a structural power that its competitors lacked. It could use its currency, its debt, and its position at the center of global finance as strategic tools. It sacrificed some of its industrial base to secure a greater prize: unchallenged financial and geopolitical dominance for another generation. The Trump administration's shift highlighted the political limits of that strategy. It demonstrated that the domestic costs of deindustrialization could generate a powerful backlash, leading to a volatile and confrontational attempt to reclaim a lost economic identity. The lesson is that these grand economic strategies are never permanent. They create winners and losers, both internationally and within a nation's own borders. The financial power secured by the Plaza Accords ultimately bred the political forces that sought to dismantle its legacy. So, as we watch a new era of economic conflict unfold, we are left to ponder. In the relentless pursuit of national advantage, are we building a more stable global economy? Or are we simply laying the groundwork for the next managed decline and the next crisis? This has been The Gold Line. Until next time, understand the past to navigate the future.